Welcome to episode 29 of Lost Signals. My name is Daryl, and I'm joined by very special guest today, the CEO and founder of Dingwall Guitars, Sheldon Dingwall. How you doing today, Sheldon?
Hey, good, Daryl. How you doing?
I'm doing well. I'm dealing with this damn cold that we're all dealing with right now, and I'm tired of it already. But that's winter in Saskatchewan, I guess. So yeah, we'll get right into this. Like, what's it like running a company like yours out of a small city like Saskatchewan?
I would say there's more advantages than disadvantages. There are so many different kinds of businesses, and my business is based in the arts. It's an artisan style business. And that type of business specifically takes a long time to start generating any income.
Right.
And so it doesn't matter if you're a filmmaker or an author or a musician or artist. When you first start out, virtually nobody cares except for your immediate family and friends.
Right.
So it takes a long time. And so, and you need time to hone your craft. And so the beauty of Saskatoon is that nothing is more than 20 minutes away. So the amount of time that I've saved just in commutes through my career would amount to years of time spent developing.
Oh, absolutely. Doing something like that in a city like even like Vancouver or Toronto would just, your travel time alone. And to find a maker space too, I could see in a larger city like that would be more of a challenge, especially compared to Saskatoon anyways. So what inspired you to start building? Where did this passion for building guitars come from?
Kind of just the way I'm wired. Anytime I'm involved with something that captures my attention, I start looking at the mechanical aspects and going, I wonder what happened if we did this. So when I broke my leg, I designed crutches and air conditioning systems for boots and there's 3 devices. I can't remember what the third one was, but I'm a lifelong guitar lover. And so from the age of 12, I started coming up with guitar designs that I thought were revolutionary. Of course, the first ones were terrible, but and some of the later ones are terrible too. I still make, missteps. And so it's just natural. I'm just wired that way.
Yeah. So you said you've made some terrible guitars and some good guitars. What would have been your favorite that you've built so far? Is there say the specific model, was it one of a Prima or a Z3 or is there something that hasn't been released?
The simple answer to that, and I'm not sidestepping the question, but the simple answer to that is my favorite is the next one. Because for me, that's where the excitement is. It's in the creation. It's in the birthing.
Yeah.
Once they turn into a model, there's a sense of pride and there's a sense of standing back and going, I feel really good about that. And then they become like your children. And so, you have, if you have a big family, there's going to be one kid that's better looking and there's going to be one kid that's smarter, and they all have their strengths. And that's the same thing with every single bass we build. They're like children.
Yeah. And so you guys have 2 shops now. Like you have the custom shop and then the imported shop right now.
Yeah. So they're all housed within the same building complex.
Yeah.
But they are distinctly separate divisions.
Yeah. So how many basses have you put through now? Say like the NG series or like combustion series, because I know the serial number of mine is like in the 1700s, but
would be I think we're into the 8,000s now.
Oh, wow.
And then when you add in the domestics, it's well over 10,000.
That's amazing. Yeah. But that you've been doing this for quite a while now.
33 years.
Yeah. And Yeah, because I think I bought my first one. I think it's just about 10 years now when I bought my Super J. And I hadn't heard about your company until I saw this one hanging on the wall in Longamoquade in Saskatoon. And then I started doing the research about it. And yeah, it's fantastic stuff. So let's jump back. So like, I guess like I ended up hearing about your stuff mainly through YouTube. And I think a lot of people maybe saw that. And the first place that I really saw it was the Make Total Destroy base cam video that Nolly put out. What had you had a relationship or like a conversation with him before that video came out, or was it kind of just they just released it and saw what happened?
You know, I think that was probably the first video I saw of Nolly. But I'd met him previous to that. I met him in 2011.
Yeah.
Met Doug Castro in 2011 at the exact same weekend.
Yeah.
It was an event called the London Bass Guitar Show. So took a gamble. Couldn't really afford to go over there. Never been to the UK before. And I was like, man, I don't know if this is such a good idea, but we'll risk it.
Yeah.
And now London feels like my second home, and meeting Nolly was, it was just a great experience. Like, there are some people that you still remember the first time you saw them, they made an impression on you.
Yeah.
And that was how it was with Nolly. He didn't come across as, a rock star or an industry giant that he was going to become. He just like, oh, that's a nice looking kid. I'm gonna pause and say hi to him.
Yeah. Yeah. Any interview I've seen with him, like, is very well spoken and like an amazing guitar player. Like I strive for that. But yeah, I own one of the signature models as well. So,
cool.
Yeah. It's like, did you notice an uptick in like interest like after that video came out, or was it kind of just like all like the snowball effect where, was it like just a number of things?
I think snowball would be a better way of terming it. We've since 2000, we've seen relatively steady but slow growth.
Right.
Other than, when the whole world fell apart in 2008 and 9, at that point we leveled off. We didn't grow, we didn't fall, but we leveled off. And so I think it's different than it used to be. Like I remember reading stories about Mesa Boogie, and when Carlos Santana, they did a guitar player interview with him, and he talked about this great amp. All of a sudden, it was just an explosion for Mesa Boogie, and they had to leave the phone off the hook because there were so many people calling it.
Yeah.
Nowadays, with TikTok and Instagram and Facebook and YouTube, everyone has so much access to varied information that it's easier to get your message out there, but it makes way less of an impact as it might have, back when people only had one source of information.
Right. Yeah.
And you see the same thing in the music industry. Like when the Sony Walkman came out, all of a sudden everybody started narrowing their musical tastes, and it started to spread out. Yeah. And that was kind of the start of the end for the super groups.
Yeah. So what would be the weirdest place that you've seen one of your basses, like, or say like biggest show like that your guitars have been featured on?
Biggest show probably was the Academy Awards. Is that Duran? Like $1 billion? No, that was Lee Sklar. He was in the orchestra pit.
Right.
I remember them going to commercial break, and he played Spectrum. So it was like,
yeah,
doesn't get any better than that.
I love his YouTube channel, by the way. It's he's a very funny man. I'd like to interview him as well at some point. But how did that relationship happen between yourself and Leland Sklar?
First NAMM show. First NAMM show was 1994. Shared a booth with Ralph Novak, and believe it or not, Charlie Hunter was the guy that did the booth demos for Ralph. Charlie Hunter was a friend of Ralph's, customer of Ralph's, and looking back, that was like, are you kidding me? I had no idea who he was, and that was pretty amazing. So long story short, I left my booth, walked around the corner, bumped into Lee, and said, "Hey, I'm Sheldon Dingwall, yada, yada, yada." Since then, I've learned that Lee typically doesn't accept invitations to go to somebody's booth and try something out. But for whatever reason, there was enough of a connection right at that moment that he came back. And when he came back, there was a guy named Max Bennett. Max has unfortunately passed away now, but Max is a bass player that played in the Joni Mitchell band. And Max is the guy that took over from Jocko. I can't imagine trying to fill Jocko's shoes, but Max was up to the challenge. Max was there. Lee is a fan of Max. And so the two of them just sort of chatted and played the bass for, I don't know, probably an hour. And Lee liked it enough to give me his contact details, and it took a year to get him a bass down to him.
Yeah.
But finally got one down to him. And this was back in the days of faxes. And so I got a fax on a Friday afternoon. Hey, the bass showed up. Plays really good. I'm going to take it to work tomorrow. And I thought, okay, that's cool. So Monday morning, had a call from him, and he'd used it on Brian Wilson album. And his exact words were, "I love it. This thing's amazing. Anything you want, I'll do it." And so that's when the relationship started. So that was 2005 when that.
Yeah.
Or sorry, 1995 when that happened.
Oh wow. Okay. So and then what? His signature model came out. What, early 2000s?
Yeah. So. A good friend of mine, Kelly Cowan, and I were just sort of joking around. We like to bounce ideas off of each other. And one of us came up with the idea, we're talking about swamp ash and all there. One of us came up with the idea of what would happen if you split the body right down the middle and went half alder, half ash.
Yeah.
And we both kind of laughed at what a crazy idea that was, but it stuck. And I decided to try it one day. So rather than swamp ash, I used northern ash because we had experience with northern ash in bodies, and the B string is just phenomenal.
Yeah.
But it's heavy, and the treble strings can be a little harsh sounding. And alder was the opposite. Alder, the treble strings were nice and warm, but the B string sounded a little soft by comparison.
Yeah.
So just took the best of each wood and created a body out of it. And to the best of my knowledge, I don't think anybody else has done this prior or since. But it makes an amazing difference. So anyways, long story short, made two of them. One went to Earl Pereira and the other one went to Lee.
Yep.
And Lee, that became one of the bases that Lee just used on everything. So that was on the Phil Collins tour, that was on the Toto tour.
Is that
so
the red one that he has?
Yeah. Red Metal Flake.
Yeah. Gorgeous guitar.
And so then I forget what year it was. It was maybe 3 years after that. Built another one for him, and took it down to him at NAMM. And he was in the studio, and when he first played it, he was like, "Yeah, I don't know. It's not the same. It's not as good. I don't like it as much."
Yeah.
So that was on like a Monday or something like that. And then about a week later, got a call from him. He said, "You know what? I actually like the bass now, but what happened was I took it into the studio. The producer heard it, and he made me re-record the entire album with that bass. And by the time that was done, I'd gotten used to the tone of it. Now I really like it.
Yeah.
And so that's when we turned it into a signature model, which ironically, for until Lee got his next bass from us, which was several years, he was the only one who had a Lee Sklar signature model that didn't have his signature on it. It was my signature, not his.
That's awesome. Yeah. I've never seen one in person. I'd really like to. I'd like to hear it, like, specifically, but I know how my Super J plays, and I can just imagine what that would play like. So what would be like your favorite wood combination, say, beside the Swamp Ash?
It has it depends on what you want to achieve from it. I really like mid-range, and the reason I like mid-range is I think that's where the musical information resides.
Yes.
So bass players focus a lot on the fundamental, but on a 5-string bass, the fundamental is getting close to the very floor of what you can hear. And if you were to take away everything but the fundamental, you wouldn't be able to really tell what the pitch was. It would just be like this low rumbling note with no real information. So
really just pushing a lot of air rather than being a defined note.
Yeah. And so our basses, maybe by accident, just have a lot of harmonic content. And that's just what I thought I liked to hear, and what I thought the bass should sound like. And so we've had feedback for decades that there's a lot of musical information that now the singer can read pitch off the bass.
Yeah.
And that's because of that harmonic content. The drummer can hear what the bass player is doing and lock in better because of all this extra information. So woods that would give you that would be more mid-centric. So that would be alders, walnuts, mahoganies. And then if you want to do the slappity smile graph tone, then Swamp Ash comes in. And so that would be a different type of tone.
Yeah. The slapping is definitely not my forte. I've tried it. I can never get it down to where it sounds the way it's supposed to. I try though. Let's see. So like back to the not wood thing, but like, what about like the models? Like you have like quite a range. Like you have short scale. I call them short scale, but like comparatively, they're not a short scale. But like you have the Super J and the Super P. And then the long scale, like your combustion series, your Z series, the afterburner series. What would be next? Like, what style would you want to build next? I mean, you have the D-Rock series too, which they're great too.
Yeah. Well, we're always going to do the long scale stuff because I just think that there is a place for that. Just like there's a place for big concert grand pianos. They do something that no other piano can do, and this does something that no other bass can do.
Yeah.
But there's lots of room for us to explore shorter scales, and that would be us just paying attention to the market and paying attention to what you can. We want to follow our own path, but if you're too rigid in your thinking, it's like if a tree falls in the forest, does anybody care? Does anybody know? So if you're in total isolation and you create the best possible bass possible, but it doesn't appeal to anybody, nobody will play it, and they'll never know it was the best bass possible. So we're investigating and playing around with shorter scales.
Yeah. So out of your bass is like you guys build 4-string, 5-string, and 6 strings. Like, what would be the most common that you're building right now? Like for strings?
5.
Yeah.
Yeah. 80% of 5s.
Yeah. I don't play 5 strings. There, it's again, I always trip over the B string. But any thought of like building like more strings, like say a 7? Like, is that it would ever be something you guys would consider? And like it's a very niche guitar, but
Yeah, we get asked from time to time, but it's never been something that somebody could convince me that enough that I got excited and went, wow, that's something I want to jump into.
yeah.
So one of the problems that I face is it, I don't like doing anything half done. And so, man, it can take from a year to several years to develop something to the point where I'll actually show people.
Right.
And so I'm working on stuff right now that people won't see for a year, 2 years, 3 years, 5 years.
Yeah.
The cost of that development is so high that we kind of have to, we have to sell probably at least 100 in order for it to even just break even.
Right.
Otherwise, it's been an exercise in fun design, but failed finances, and you can only do that so often before you kill yourself.
That makes sense. So would that be why it took so long to come up with a left-handed combustion series?
Oh yeah. So one of the big difficulties with multi-scale is that the lines aren't parallel, the fret lines aren't parallel, the bridge isn't parallel to the nut. And so it's not as simple as just flipping it over.
Yeah.
Everything, take, for instance, a left-handed parallel fret neck. For the most part, the only difference is the dots are on the other side.
Yeah.
And that's it, right? Yeah. You can get away with tuners being on the wrong side. You'll be fine.
Yeah.
But on a multi-scale, that doesn't work. You're literally starting from scratch.
I've seen one, and to me, like, I walked into Lon McQuaid in Saskatoon the one day, and I saw it was the white 5-string that was there, and it threw me off because I'm used to looking at my NG2, and it's like, okay, this is how it looks, and you walked into Lon McQuaid and it just flipped. It's like I thought there was something wrong with my eyes when I saw it, but so. What about this? So I have this C3 right here. That's a prototype. Do you guys actually build 6-string guitars anymore, like a regular guitar? Like, 'cause I remember seeing, like, when I first started like researching your stuff back in the day, you guys were selling your custom 1 and custom 2. There was a market for it then. Like, what does that look like now? And is it something you would want to revisit at some point?
Yeah, sure. The problem that we face is that, like I say, I've got 5 years worth of bass projects waiting in line, and around that time, around the C3 that you're talking about, a good friend of mine who's now passed away, Pete Warrenowski, he managed the local Lon McQuaid, or actually, he was the general manager for both stores.
Yep.
And he took me aside and he said, Sheldon, I'm just going to be honest with you. And this is one of the things I really loved about Pete, was that he would be honest with you to try and help you. Right. And he said, I'm going to be honest with you. I know that your heart is in guitars and you're a guitar player and you would love to bring these out. But if that means you're going to take resources away from supplying basses, which I have people waiting on, then I'm going to ask you, please don't do the guitars. Please focus on getting the basses out, because that's where the demand is.
Yeah.
And I went home from that meeting and I was like, damn. Okay, well, what's wrong with being a bass builder? It's not my native instrument, but I've really come to appreciate bass players as people, and they're not the same as guitar players. They're a completely different style of personality. And to be honest, I think it actually fits my personality better. So I've really come to appreciate being in the bass world.
Yeah. So like, I've noticed specifically lately that pretty much any video that I'm seeing, like especially with like metalcore or like really heavy bands, guys are playing your instruments, like the new Archspire stuff, like obviously, Periphery, less Periphery now, but you know what I mean, and like bands like that. So like, what do you think brought this? Maybe call it a renaissance of your style of basses with this music. I know your instruments are played in all sorts of genres and whatever, but why do you think it really resonates with specifically like metal bands?
7 and 8 string guitars.
Yeah.
So the 7 and 8 string guitars with a low B push the bass down into a lower frequency range, and that forced and also low tuning, like tuning down to G or F sharp.
Yeah.
That puts strain on the equipment that just by accident our basses were able to handle.
Yeah.
And handle quite well. And so it was just, people, I'd heard it before that our basses were a solution waiting for a problem. And that was meant more as a dig. But in this case, that was actually the exact way it turned out, was that we had a solution for low tuning. And until that became a problem, people didn't recognize just how powerful this solution was.
Yeah, that low B or F sharp string, or I mean, I've seen guys tune to like E0 too as well, like with your stuff. Like that's really low, and that's a really thick gauge string that you're playing. But like the string tension on a 37-inch scale guitar, I mean, it's like you said, it's built for it. What's the weirdest tuning that you've built, like from factory? Because I remember you guys had a combustion that you specifically tuned to F sharp, and I actually owned that guitar for a while. But what's the lowest that you can order from like direct from you?
E0 would be as low as we've gone.
Yeah.
And we did one for Javier from Animals as Leaders, and the string was huge. It was almost a 1/4 inch in diameter. And I remember, I still have the video on my phone of just plucking the string and taking a video of it, because it just looked like the string was in slow motion.
Oh yeah. That's nuts. Yeah. My brain's not working right now. So what's next, like for the company in general? Like where do you see this? I call it a wave of popularity. Like, where is that going in the next like 5 years?
I don't think anybody knows. One thing that I've always been aware of, and it's been maybe a self-limiting fear, is that music is fashion. And I was influenced by the records my sister listened to, but I also had my own records that she couldn't stand, right? And they were mine, right?
Yeah.
And so one of my jobs as the leader of the company is to try and navigate and find and spread out into as many different areas as possible to mitigate that risk, because there are literally hundreds of people that their lives don't depend on it, but it affects their livelihood with every decision I make. So I spent a lot of time working on strategy, and so to be more direct, to answer your question, the metal market is one we love being in. it's funny how from the outside, the metal players look scary and mean and dangerous. And yet every single one of them is just like the most genuine, down to earth type of person you can meet. So it's a really cool, space to be involved in. I'm really proud that we're able to hang out in that space. But like you say, our bases will play any genre. So we're also pushing into other areas and trying to gain a foothold there.
Yeah. Is your shop still backed by the doggy daycare? Is it still on the other side of the building there?
We took over the doggy daycare space, and so now we have the whole building.
Oh yeah.
It took forever to get the dog smell out of there, but
yeah. My sister's dog used to go there. I remember walking like before I knew where the factory was, like, and I looked at the door. It's like, that doesn't make sense. It's just it was a weird concept to me that it was backed by the by your factory. But so like, what did people think? Like cause like I've been to the factory before. You've taken me on a tour and we've looked at it. Like, what did some of these people like that have showed up to the factory, like, what did they think of walking into that space? Like, because like the first time I walked into it, it was very humble, right? Like it's not. When I was there last, it wasn't very showy. Like it was a working space. I mean, like has it changed since I've been there last? I guess with what I'm asking.
It's depending on which division you're in. It's gotten quite a bit more organized looking, but it's still not showy. We don't have a showroom. We don't have, our reception area is actually a working office. You walk right into the sales office.
Yeah.
And if money was no object, sure, yeah, would buy or build a pretty building and we just don't have. We're not a big enough company to be able to do that at this point. We're still a small, scrappy.
Yeah.
We kill what we eat or we eat what we kill kind of thing. Yeah. I like that actually. I like the underdog in other people, and I like being the underdog in my own area.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I remember walking in there like the first time, like there was a drill press sitting there. The guy off to the side was winding pickups and stuff. And yeah, are you guys still winding your own pickups for everything?
We do. We wind our own pickups for the domestics,
right?
And then we would wind prototype pickups that we would have. They're basically the best Asian pickup maker. Like they make what's called OEM pickups. So in other words, yes, it may have somebody's logo on it, but it was made by this company.
Right.
And so they would do contract manufacturing for a lot of different companies, and they do all the import pickups.
Right. Right. Why did the pickups and the combustion change from the original squares to the rounded?
Oh. Well, that was for a couple of reasons. The main reason was injection molded tooling is like stupid expensive, and we were hand making our shells for the domestic basis for the custom stuff.
Yeah.
So originally we built ourselves a vacuum forming machine, and we'd get sheets of plastic in and would heat it up until it was melted and sagging, and then suck that hot plastic over top of wooden shells, which would give us a shape, and then would CNC machine our logo into it and would bead blast it and cut it out. Our shells were costing us like $10 a shell kind of thing.
Oh, wow.
And they looked like, to the untrained eye, they looked like they were injection molded shells. They looked like, we went out and spent $10,000 on tooling and have 1,000 shells in the back room. But no, they were each handmade. And then we went to the next level and we started casting them. And casting gets you a much better looking product, but you end up with pickup shells that a higher reject rate. And so they're still costing us $10 each. Yeah. And so the volume of the combustions got to the point where it's like, okay, if it continues to grow and we start using injection molded shells in the combustions, we can justify the cost and expense of doing injection molded tooling so that we can get them onto the domestic basis. So the only reason the combustions had the round end shells was to pay for the tooling to put them onto the domestics.
That makes sense then. Yeah, because like my NG2 that has the original square ones, and my Super J has the rounded. But yeah,
your shells are handmade
on the NG,
on that Super J, on the Super J. Yep.
Cool. That's still my favorite bass. I play that every day. It's
that's one of my favorites too. I remember that bass. Like I remember like it was yesterday.
Yeah. I've spoken to the guy that originally ordered that. There was Arlington, Houston.
Really?
Yeah, there's
that part I don't remember.
That's so on Facebook there's a Super J Super P club. You may
I didn't know that.
Yeah, they're I think that Stephen Gibson started it. And everybody was showing pictures of their basses, and like the dude that Arlington Houston, he's like, I ordered that bass. It's like, and I bought it off the shelf at Longwood Quaid in Saskatoon. So we've had we talk about it every now and then. It's interesting because like I think you told me like that was a fairly custom job on that one, like with like the mother of pearl inlays and like the drop D tuner on it and everything. It's everybody that sees it is very jealous of that bass, but I'm glad I picked it up. But
and that Bronze Age finish, that was a difficult finish to get that color, and it was designed around a piece of pickguard material.
Yeah,
and
the
so I sat
shell,
there.
Right?
No.
Here's what I found.
I can't remember what it's no longer available, but it was a kind of a bronze swirl pickguard. That one looks like tortoise shell.
Yeah, that one is.
Yeah. Oh no, that's it. That's the bronze. That's not tortoise shell. That's that unobtainium bronze pickguard material. So the finish was custom blended using eyedroppers and dye to modify the color of the finish until it matched that pickguard.
That's awesome. Yeah, like that's. I guess I didn't realize like it was that rare, but no, it's awesome. It plays great, and it maybe should be in the hands of somebody that's a little better player than me. But I'm glad I have it. But
you know what? It's all about how it makes you feel. If you feel good playing it, then it's in the right place.
Yeah, I definitely do. Like, I have my NG2. It very rarely gets played because like this, it suits my style better, I'm guessing.
There we go.
Yeah. So you guys have a contest running right now to win a D-Rock. You want to tell people about that a little bit?
Sure. This is something we did last year, and contests are kind of a cool way to just get people to interact with your brand. And I hate using marketing terms like that, but I mean, let's face it, we're in a business to sell basses, and so we have to pay attention to things like branding and engagement with customers. But in the end, just a quick tangent on that, when it comes to customers, you mentioned Arlington, Houston. He started out as a customer, but now I consider him a friend, and Arlington has been a friend for almost 20 years, Nice. And so I'll use terms like branding and customer engagement, but in the end, I don't think I've met a customer of ours that I didn't like and I wouldn't want to go and have a beer with or have a coffee with. They're all just like super cool people. So getting back to the contest, it's a way. I mean, we're not really that strong on YouTube. We only just hit the 10,000 subscriber mark. And our social media manager, Felipe, is he's tasked with getting more YouTube subscribers, so that we can get people seeing more than just the videos that pop up on their feed.
Yeah,
that we can get people to see some of our setup videos and get people to see. We want to provide a lot of content that has less to do with, just, hey, we want to sell you a bass, buy our bass.
Yeah.
And more with, hey, you know what? You guys are our friends. Here's something important. I think it'll help you. Here's a video on it. And it has nothing to do with buying a bass. It just has everything to do with just sharing the information that took us 30 years to figure out.
Yeah.
And so the contest is a way of getting people to subscribe, and a way of getting another bass into somebody's hands that maybe can't afford it.
Yeah.
But wouldn't it be cool if that person turned out to be the next Nolly, or the next Jared from Arch Spire, or something like that, or the next Jacob Umansky?
I'm actually wearing an interval shirt right now, and Jacob Umansky's his new Z3 that you built is like, every time I see a video with him in it, it's like it's nuts. Plus, the guy's a fantastic player too.
Great player, great guy.
Yeah, it seems fun, and I'm hoping that, like once stuff calms down again, that I'm hoping intervals will come through here so I can actually go see him.
Oh, I think they are actually. I can't remember the date, but I'm.
Oh, I don't know if maybe that's not announced yet, but hopefully.
Maybe not. That stuff I don't follow. That's Felipe's job, and he'll tell me, "Hey, Sheldon, somebody's coming in October. Are you going to be here?"
I know they just canceled some shows in Toronto to the new COVID shit again, but is what it is.
Yeah.
Tired of it. So we do one thing here on the Lost Signals podcast. We add 2 songs by every week to a playlist on Spotify. Usually my co-host and I add these songs, but usually when we have guests on, we get them to add 2. Which songs did you want to add? I know we spoke about this like last week, just to give you a heads up about it, but there's 2 that you were going to add.
I forget what I suggested. I think it was Make Total Destroy.
Yeah. And there was it was an Amanda Marshall song, and I was going to ask you about, like, what's the connection there?
Oh, Birmingham.
Yeah.
Well, okay. I've got a bit of a funny story, but essentially, Lee Sklar played on that album.
Okay.
And that was like probably one of the first times I heard our bass on the radio on a pop tune, where the B string had a lot of room, and it was like, okay, yeah, you don't have to tell me what bass was used in that. I recognize the tone.
Yeah.
So that, and I like the song. I met Amanda's boyfriend, who was playing bass in the live band, and he gave me his personal information, and we were supposed to connect at some point. And so I called one morning, and a very sleepy Amanda picks up the phone and goes, "Hello." And I was like, oh my God, I just woke up Amanda Marshall.
That's awesome. That's great. Yeah. Well, that seems like a good place to end it. We covered a lot of things here. Thanks again for coming on. If you want to check out any Dingwall stuff, you can find them on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, everything. I'll have everything all linked in the description. Go check out their stuff. It's
sweet.
Yeah.
Thanks so much.
Thanks a lot, Sheldon, and we will see you guys out there.
Cheers, Jarrah.
Thanks.